episode of the Oz DeFi Community Podcast. My name is Shahirah. I'm co-founder of Finch and venture partner at Scalata. Today joining me is Shane Verner, Australian and New Zealand Sales Director at Fireblocks, a global digital asset infrastructure provider. Welcome, Shane.
Thank you, Shahirah. That was a wonderful one.
Such a pleasure to have you join today. We always like to kick off these chats with a bit of an intro, or rather your personal journey into Web3, how you got into this space, and maybe tell us a bit about how you ended up at Fireblocks.
Okay, I guess I guess we all come into this sort of space a little bit accidentally, right? Particularly if you're not in your 20s. I guess I've been crypto curious for a long time, and an investor of wildly mixed success. And I've got a lot of friends in that particular church. But what really got me lured deep into the ecosystem, I think, is when I was working with a cloud native core banking provider called Thought Machine. They're out of London. And while I was there, we got called by a bank to come and see if we could integrate with their potential journey into crypto. This was in 2021, and I got introduced to the Fireblocks team then, and fair to say I was pretty impressed with not only the technology but the humans in the organization. My background is very much traditional finance, traditional technology for organizations like IBM and Cisco and EMC, that classic sort of selling software and hardware and solutions to the banks and the telcos around Australia and New Zealand. But the last 5 or 6 years, I've been very focused up on in the startup community, organizations like MongoDB and Thought Machine and now Fireblocks.
Nice. So safe to say Fireblocks had Thought Machine as their customer and won you on board as an employee?
No, they were looking to partner with Thought Machine rather than Thought Machine as a customer. And I just met some of the guys through that.
Wonderful. So what is Fireblocks? How did it start? What do you do? Who are your customers?
There's only 3 questions there. Fireblocks exists to provide digital asset services to institutional customers. We're not a retail play. We've occasionally been called erroneously as the world's largest regulated crypto custodian. And it's an important distinction that we're not actually that. We are not regulated, nor are we a custodian. We enable our institutional clients to self-custody, remove counterparty risk, and remove it securely. We've got this sort of thick steel thread of cybersecurity that runs through everything that we do. Kind of a cool story how we came about. Our 3 co-founders exited their first startup in Israel to a huge security company called Checkpoint, who I'm sure you probably know. And while they were there, the North Korean Lazarus group hacked 3 South Korean exchanges, ran off with $200 million worth of Bitcoin. And our 3 co-founders got called in to provide forensic audit services on that hack. And while they were there, they sort of worked out a way to, saw an opportunity in the market to secure wallets on the blockchain. So they went into stealth in 2019, came out of stealth in 2019, and since then we've had a wild ride. We've raised $1 billion at an $8 billion valuation. Managed to secure some 1,700 institutional clients around the world from all over the crypto, TradFi, GameFi, Web3 ecosystem. And I think the big scary stat, which sort of puts a lot of color around the space that you and I are in, we've transferred some $3.5 trillion across the Fireblocks network worldwide. So since coming out of stealth in 2019, it's pretty impressive.
It's wild. And I guess how many customers in total now do you have? Are you taking care of globally?
1,700 globally, 92 in Australia and New Zealand.
Wow.
I was the first person to land on the shore in November 21.
And it all sounds so recent, doesn't it?
It does, right? You know, if I was at IBM and said I've been here since 2021, they'd think I'm an intern. You know, this is a different world entirely that we're in.
It sure is. So I guess describing it as a digital asset custody platform. Since then, it has also evolved into, I guess, a more broader value proposition in terms of the infrastructure that you provide to GameFi, NFTs, and the likes. Talk us through that evolution of going from, strictly servicing institutional customers into probably the more familiar Web3 companies that we see day to day.
Yeah, it's an interesting sort of market makeup, and you and the boys at Oz DeFi would see, I think the market, particularly locally, if I can just talk Australia and New Zealand, has three distinct cohorts. You've got the big banks, that TradFi end of town, building stable coins. You would have seen the National Australia Bank announcement 2 weeks ago, Howard Silby got in the press and revealed to the Australian Financial Review that NAB are launching a stablecoin program of work. You may have seen the work that Fireblocks and ANZ did in April last year, launching the world's first major bank stablecoin, the $8 DC. It was an incredibly exciting piece of work to be associated with. So there's that TradFi piece of work, and that's being sort of married now to what the Digital Finance Corporation and the Reserve Bank of Australia are doing with the CBDC. And they're about to announce their successful submissions, the use cases that they're going to take to market from the 142 submissions. So that's that end. In the middle, I think we all see the same thing. We see that big amorphous mass of crypto organizations in Australia, be they funds and exchanges and various different investment vehicles, all focused on, all of the, from the Bitcoin to the 1,400 other tokens that Fireblocks supports. And then I think most excitingly is the Web3 community. They're the builders, the incredibly talented young men and women building all sorts of Web3 use cases, finding their niche, raising money with that VC community that's so active in Web3. It seems that the best thing about the bear market, Shahirah, and I don't know if you agree with this, but I think it makes the entrepreneurs and the developers get off their yachts and get back on the tools, and instead of building in the traditional crypto space, they're now tokenizing racehorses and doing crazy stuff in the Web3 thing that we're really loving being associated with.
Mm-hmm. So what are examples of those types of projects that you're seeing that has been able to leverage Fireblocks in terms of building out sort of these different functions of the company in a far more accelerated manner?
So what sort of Web3 things are we seeing? One of the big standout and very public ones was recently we announced our work with Flipkart. Flipkart are like the Amazon for India, and they have a rewards program that if you buy a certain type of product on Flipkart, you'll get a reward NFT that opens up new rewards. A loyalty NFT that opens up new rewards. It's a fabulous program to work. It's really cool. But there's big trends that we're seeing in this space. I think the notion of tokenizing everything is you'll see how much momentum that's gathering. You see how much work's being done in tokenizing carbon and that whole ESG space. You might have seen recently we tokenized government debt with the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange. Mm-hmm. These are things that, if they had happened a couple of years ago, you would have clutched your pearls.
Yeah, wow. And so maybe I'll just take a step back when we talk about these, and I've got an article up here that talks about kind of what you describe as a Web3 engine. Exactly what are those pillars that sit within that?
So I think it's fair to say that that if you want to build something in Web3, that there's a lot of barriers that remain today in order to quickly build and launch some sort of Web3 service, right? Web3 businesses tend to be being built on Web2 infrastructure. and you think about the product, the problems that has security problems, scalability problems, accessibility gaps, which all limit your speed to market. And in this space, when all the builders are out there, you need to get to market quickly. So what our engine is about, like everything at Fireblocks, is having that, that steel thread of security that runs through everything, that secure infrastructure, that notion that not your keys, not your crypto. We protect you from counterparty risk. We secure your keys in a unique way that has differentiated us wildly in the market and put us in this place of being the AWS for crypto. So securing yourself from both external and insider threats is critical. And we've got the external threats by how we sign, and we've got the internal threats covered by the governance layer that we put over everything that we do. It's to be designed by you and by us in partnership with you as our institutional client. Then we've got that developer tooling aimed specifically at the Web3 community. So robust APIs and SDKs, and that'll get you to market quickly. Then if you're successful, you're going to need to be scalable and agile. So your product, your team, your infrastructure has all got to be able to meet that demand. So we've got that covered as well. And then you need this connectivity to your ecosystem, your access, your 24/7 support. Those sorts of things are critical if you're going to get to market. So that's effectively what the Fireblocks Web3 engine really is.
And I like what the analogy you've made on the AWS platform for crypto. It's kind of a one-stop and solution, modular, in that you can add and subtract as needed based on where your project is at and what your requirements are.
Right.
I'm curious to know at what stage of a company is Fireblocks most appropriate for?
That's an interesting question.
I imagine you see a lot of early stage companies, obviously doing their very best to build things sort of scalably and securely. Just interested to hear at what point does Fireblocks become a really great solution?
The moment that you want to be secure and go to customers. Yeah. When you get out of a science experiment with some sort of hardware wallet into, okay, I need to be ready to scale to meet market demand, to meet my customer market demand, because I have to be successful. And what do I need to be successful? Well, I just told you about those 4 pillars that you're going to need in order to be successful. So we used to have an approach that had quite a high barrier to entry. With the emergence of Web3, particularly in the last 6 months, we've changed our pricing model to enable the Web3 builders to come on much sooner. Of course, it still scales, and we're a SaaS company, so we scale with your success.
Mm-hmm. Can you give an example of a company that has perhaps started with you at the very early stages and has been able to build and grow on your platform?
Yeah, I've got, that's another good question. I've got a favorite startup customer that we started working with about 8 or 9 months ago. They're a carbon tokenization platform that marries agricultural data into their real-time platform. They made a decision to get on Fireblocks very early on in their journey. They're a long way from launch when they first decided to come on, but they wanted to build it with scale and agility and success in mind, and they wanted to expose their developers to our entire platform. Mm-hmm. So their name is Sensand. They'll be going to market, I don't want to steal their thunder, but very soon. And I think they're going to reshape the carbon tokenization market in this country. They're a hell of a lot of fun to work with, but they did say something to me during the process. Their estimate is that we saved them some 12 months in their time to market by jumping on early. So it's a hell of a story that we're very proud of.
And can I ask if Fireblocks is more suitable for projects that are funded or does your pricing reflect companies that are really early stage but wanting to build things right from the get-go?
That's a tough one. Typically, you're going to need to have a commitment to, again, that AWS analogy is I think fair, with the greatest respect to my enormous elephant friends in AWS. We're not at their scale yet, but we're a consumption play, so we want to get organizations on early, but we can't be confused with a hardware wallet that you put in your top drawer.
Course.
Is that suitably vague, or does that convey?
No, I think that's clear to a lot of people who are at that stage and will self-identify.
I know who you're talking to here, Shahirah, because you're talking to a very broad community, and some of those are at incredibly a twinkle in the eye stage, and others are at seed, and others are looking to raise Series A, right? So where do we fit? I can't tell you. It's more about, hey, we're going to go to market. Security is critical, scalability, APIs, SDKs, tokenization engines. We need this, and we need it to be secure, at rest, and in flight. So Fireblocks is for us. That sort of thing.
Yeah, great. So what's next for Fireblocks? You mentioned an enormous raise last year. You're obviously looking to continue building out this infrastructure platform or Web3 engine play, which I think is incredibly powerful and valuable. What's next? Where is Fireblocks heading?
That's a great idea. IPO, hopefully, when the market's right. That's the most exciting thing in the hopefully not too distant future. Obviously, we want to see the market improve from where it is today. Bitcoin back at 60 would be great, Shahirah. I think. Look, we have made no secrets that Web3 and all that entails is our focus. Payments is going to be a huge part of that focus. GameFi is a rocket ship waiting for the right vehicle to take off, I think. TradFi, you see the announcements of Goldman Sachs and MasterCard this week. We mentioned NAB a couple of weeks ago announcing what they do. We are privy to a lot of those announcements that are rolling down. So it's no longer the institutions are coming. The institutions are here. They've made their decision. We've seen the expansion into retail. Fireblocks has a play for that as well. So we've got nothing but opportunity. But if we would say, where is our major focus? I think our major focus is in that Web3 space and everything that represents. When you and I talk about those Web3 builders that we were talking about before the call actually started, and you think about what the massive institutions that shape the economy in this country, what they're doing, they're our two major areas of focus, I think.
I'd love to hear your, I guess, your observations on the Australian market. So you mentioned 92 customers here. The different use cases. Are you seeing sort of a trend in a particular space over others? Obviously you're working with global clients. Are there patterns that you're seeing in the Australian market that's interesting to you?
Yeah, I think when I first joined, I thought I would have a slow journey with the major banks in Australia. And I thought 90% of my day would be with that core crypto cohort, forgive the alliteration. The exchanges, the funds, that world. And whilst they're a huge part of our client base and a huge part of our annual revenue, I've been shocked by the momentum around tokenization and the breadth of what organizations of all different shapes and sizes are considering to tokenize. My team and I have sat in front of people that said, what do you think about tokenizing a jumbo jet? You think, well, why? Why on earth would we do that? But if you think what tokenization really is beyond, fractionalization on the blockchain, it's democratization, in my mind, of investment opportunities. So, people like mum and dad and me, we would never have been able to participate in the ACU carbon market. We just wouldn't have. We wouldn't have even considered it. But if it only costs me $10 to get in because it's now being tokenized, then all of a sudden my kids have an opportunity to participate in that. And everything from government bonds to ESG bonds to toll roads to bills of lading to, I mentioned racehorses before. There's all sorts of spaces in gaming that we're seeing emerge that are fascinating, but I can't talk too much about because they're just twinkles in people's eyes that are speaking to us now. But the breadth of use case is pretty exciting, we think.
And do you think that's unique to the Australian market?
No, but I think our participation in digital assets outraces the vast majority of mature economies, and the stats support that. Although New Zealand is surprisingly lagging, and I can't really work out why. So no, and I think we're pretty aggressively entrepreneurial as a nation, doing pretty well if you squint. I think, and you, in one of your real jobs, you see just how many entrepreneurs are out there looking to get funded with great decks, great ideas. A couple of them have got early stage customers up and running. It's an exciting space to be in.
Yeah,
I think
it's about right for it. Yeah.
Well, I would love to see regulation move at a greater pace. Whilst the token mapping paper that was released last week was a start. I'd love to see that start real momentum and us to get that light regulatory wrapper that our community needs.
Shane, Fireblocks has a strong Australian presence, much of which has grown alongside a growing Web3 community here in Australia. I'm curious to hear, what does community mean to you personally, and how have you seen kind of community grow in the time that Fireblocks has been in this market?
Yeah, look, you got to give a shout out to the Oz DeFi boys for what they've done. I've been to a lot of their functions, and they've been universally well attended by the most broad range of people. It's a shocking range of people that you see. You see every member of the community represented, every section of the community represented, and I love those nights. This is the first time I think I've ever been involved in a community. I in my professional life, you work at IBM or one of the giants, and even a core banking startup. There is no core banking community.
No.
You don't
Not a cool one anyway.
Scarce use cases. I went to the NFT Fest in St Kilda late last year. Was it December last year? And I wasn't cynical going in, but I don't know what my expectations were, but I was stunned. We had bankers and government representatives and Big Four chartered accountancy and lawyers and artists and poets and everything. And it was fun, and I think that's what our community is like. They're not a chore to get you. It's not networking amongst the grind of a whole bunch of other suits. It's a very different feel. And I think it just reflects how early we are in this whole ecosystem, this whole space now.
Yeah, wonderful answer. It always puts a big smile on my face when I hear of the inclusivity in this space, and you can tell when people beam and talk about their experience and how different it is from our daily corporate gigs. And really creating a unique space. And absolutely, compliments and credits to the Oz DeFi group, who we just mentioned earlier, have only really been around for a year and seem to have been able to rally, multiple segments of the community in such an impressive manner. So it's we hope to continue that momentum and growing the community as they have. Finally, Shane, for anyone wanting to learn more about Fireblocks, what is the best way to contact you?
I'm the most contactable bloke in the world. Hit me up on LinkedIn. That's always the best place to start. And my contact details are there. Have a look at our website, fireblocks.com, and go through the formal channels if you like. But yeah, we'd love to hear from you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time, Shane. Appreciate your insights and hearing about your background and all the wonderful, amazing progress that Fireblocks is making. Thanks again, everyone, for listening. We'll chat with you next week. See you later.
Cheers, Shahirah. Thanks.